Hello and welcome to Nikon Report, your weekly roundup for all the latest Nikon news and all other photographic announcements that we found interesting. It's Konstantin here, and here is
Becky.
Number 72. First, we're going to go to delivery updates since we do it on a weekly basis now.
We do now.
So, USA, we have B&H Photo is now shipping Nikon Z9 cameras ordered from November the 3rd till December the 5th. So, basically for the whole month of November, I would say that. And then, very briefly, Amazon USA also had Z9 in stock. That didn't last long, but apparently there's some stock on Amazon. Where they get the cameras, I have no idea.
It's one of life's great mysteries. However, over here in the UK, we have now reached day 3 orders. So I had to think about that. We've reached day 3 orders, which is a beautiful thing. That means that we've now officially tackled day 1 and day 2, which is fantastic.
That's pretty good because last week we just begun supplying day 2. So in a week, we supplied the whole day 2 and moved on to
It's one
day
delivery.
3.
Make it sound way more impressive than it is. But essentially, our May delivery arrived. So hopefully come June, we'll get some more and then we'll be able to do another day or 2. Let's see. Watch this space.
Becky, we are on the internet. We have to exaggerate things.
I'm just like, please don't call me. Like, don't call me and ask me when yours is coming. Anyway, it sounds very sensational, but actually the reality is we've had 1 delivery. It's a May delivery, which means that hopefully we should get another delivery for June, which means that potentially we will be able to deal with some more orders this month. Yay!
Well, Becky, it only takes 1 delivery of 1,000 cameras to fulfill all the back orders and then have a free stock, so don't underestimate the power of 1 delivery.
Okay. We also had some 24-120s, all of 2.
All of 2. So there's a free stock in the United States. We've got 2.
Yeah. If you did pay for one, obviously we handled our pre-orders right at the beginning, but if you have paid for one in the last couple of months, it does mean that you will probably be getting yours fairly soon because we are seeing them trickle through on a fairly regular basis.
I like how we talk about USA getting everything and then we just moan for the UK deliveries.
But we do. That's just how we roll.
That's our life. That's our existence.
Exactly. Now, we also did get decent stocks of all the other things that are on promotion. So aside from Z72 bodies, which are a sort of 2-week lead time situation, selected items are out of stock, but the vast majority of the stuff that's on offer is available. So if you've been wondering whether or not you can get your hands on a particular item, just pop over to our website. Our stock is updated as and when we receive it.
The June promotions or summer promotions in the UK and the EU are still running, and also you have some promotion in the United States. Again, we always recommend to go and buy first, then buying it in the last couple of days. So just to avoid the disappointment or waiting on things. All right, from delivery straight to rumors. And oh boy, we had some rumors last week. So first one up is Nikon to announce a new 400mm f4.5 mirrorless lens very soon. So according to Nikon Rumours, the announcement is expected at the end of June, so this month. So we got a couple of weeks left. And then what they say is going to be a 4.5. It may change to a 4, but he thinks it's going to be a 4.5. It's going to be very light. It's only 1 kilo, 250 grams in weight and 23 centimeters long. So it's basically the size of 70-200 or 100-400 lens. Not too shabby.
That's going to be amazing when that comes out. I will say it's supposed to be part of the S line. So we're expecting 800mm 6.3 PF kind of quality in a smaller package. Very high performance glass is the idea behind that one. That rumor is on Nikon Rumours. We've seen it in a couple of other places as well. Whether or not this is going to come to fruition, we've no idea.
Shall we place bets, Becky? Are we going to see it at the end of this month, or let's say beginning of July? What do you reckon?
I will place a bet that we'll see it by August.
Okay,
I'm going to play it safe.
I'm a little bit not confused, and I tell you why, because it's just we had so many long lenses released.
Yeah. And
I just feel like, again, we need to see something like 85mm. We need to see some other lenses like 7300.
I want my wide-angle DX lens.
Exactly. So I feel like it's nice, but give us something else. Cover the other gaps in the lineup. So, but of course, if it's coming out, well, good for them. I mean, I personally think it's not going to be very expensive, which means it's going to be a good seller. So if you don't want to buy, let's say, 100-400, you're like a prime guy, then this is going to be a good option, especially in the size of 100-100. That's quite an achievement.
Or prime girl, for that matter.
Absolutely.
On to the subject of DX rumors. Nikon is rumored to announce a Z30 APS-C mirrorless camera very soon. I've seen this also in a couple of places. Nikon Rumours have now picked that up as well and posted that, but we saw it in a few other sites at the beginning of last week, pretty much right after we'd finished recording last week's podcast. Again, this is rumored to be announced possibly in June, and it should be called the Z30. Apparently, there's a very low chance it will be called the Z70.
Well, I think there would be in a different lineups as well. I mean, we had a really good conversation about potential future Nikon Z lineup, and we based our assumptions based on DSLR lineup. So just looking at the past and going into the future. But I think Z30 probably makes more sense than the Z70, isn't it?
Yes, if it's going to be an entry-level Z camera, which is what we're supposing. Now, Nikon Rumours was told that Nikon is done with the 24-megapixel sensor for APS-C and full frame, and all future cameras will have larger sensors, which is basically what you were saying on Friday.
Exactly.
So do you think Nikon Rumours were told that by you?
Well, you see, we're aggregating the links from the last week for this, for this show. So perhaps we read each other minds more than articles, I would say, because we don't publish any articles. But it is an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, Z70 doesn't make sense, I think, in a lineup for the time being anyway, because you've got Z50, which is their kind of 900-pound range camera, and that's probably due to upgrade for Mark II version. Then I think Z90 makes more sense as a top professional offering, and obviously we do need that entry level. Surprisingly, we have quite a few people thinking that Nikon should not release Z30 because it doesn't fit their mantra of high price, high margin. I agree to a degree that it's nice to have a high margin on items, and but at the same time, you need to have an entry-level product. Otherwise, you limiting yourself and you becoming a new Leica. That's in my opinion. I mean, we're not going to go that extreme into Leica territory, but at the same time, what remind me of things like you go to places like Costco of the world, or to places like Sainsbury's, and I don't know if you've seen in the past, you just have like those Canons and Nikons packaged up with lenses and sold as bundles. So it's everything together. Camera, maybe 2 lenses or 1, memory card, bag, all in one. You just grab a box and you go. Yeah. It's obviously not aimed at us, people who watch this podcast, but it's aimed at people who just say, well, I have £500 to spend. That's a good present maybe to my niece or nephew or, et cetera, et cetera. So,
I was thinking of buying a proper camera, or I've always wanted to step away from iPhoneography or whatever. And this is on offer at the moment. It's got everything I need to get started. Don't need to add anything. It does make sense. It also makes sense that they would have something that hopefully will still make them enough profit in order to invest the profits in R&D, which is usually the purpose of these entry-level cameras as well, a dual purpose, as it were, for having an entry-level model.
So for naysayers, I would say, let's just wait and see what's going to happen. Yeah. So maybe you're right and we are wrong, or maybe we are right and you're wrong. So you never know. So, but I can see the points coming from both sides, and we just need to see and wait what's going to happen. But I understand that, if you look at the, let's say, Investor Relations Day, they say, we want to sell expensive items for high margin. It does make sense, but I feel like we do need to have that product in the pipeline as well. Now, in terms of specs, Nikon says that there may be a possible 8K video, 36 to 46 megapixel sensor, mechanical shutter, and IBIS. I don't think this is the case. If we start to see this, then we're in Z70, Z90 territory. So I personally think for this one, if you're going to get a 24 megapixel sensor, I know Nikon is probably want to get away with it, but if you're going to get 24 megapixel sensor, it's going to be good enough. Give it basically the same Z50 AF system. Just make it very basic on many, many levels, but low priced enough. So a lot of people will buy. I think 4K is necessary because people buy new things now. They don't care about the specs, but if it's 4K, that means it's fine. So, but overall, package it up with something like 16-50 or release even cheaper lens that will go with it, and do either 1 lens or 2 lens bundle for people just to buy them outright and don't worry about choosing any other things.
Yeah, I think that there should be a price adjustment on the 1650, 5250 combo. I think that should be adjusted anyway for the Z50 kit. Because although they're a bargain with the Z50, they could be cheaper. And then they would couple quite nicely with the Z30.
But also, have you noticed that other manufacturers suddenly decided to release their APS-C/DX cameras? They didn't care about them that much. But then Canon released their cameras, R7, R10s. Fujifilm obviously released their top pro, but their range is pretty much DX or APS-C and then medium format. So they don't do full frame. No. When people compare and saying Fuji is much better than Nikon in DX range. Well, yes, because Nikon runs full frame system as well as DX, while Fujifilm literally just specialize in XF, so the APS-C system.
Yes.
So yes, of course, it's their bread and butter, and then they have GFX system, which is very different from everything else, and those are much lower quantities. So, but then we also have a rumor of Sony soon announcing their DX offering as well. It looks like Nikon will follow suit as well. What do you think? I mean, are we going to see Z30?
You know, until this became a rumor last week, I didn't think it was going to happen. I genuinely didn't think that we were going to see another DX camera this quarter. I thought at the earliest we'd probably see something is maybe September, but I was expecting something else, which hasn't happened yet. So it's an interesting one, and it's interesting that more than one rumor site has picked this up now.
Yeah.
Usually that is the sign of things to come.
That's true. I mean, Tom Hogan wrote about the 30 last year, and he said it's been prototyped and it's basically ready to go.
Yeah.
He actually, in last week's article as well, he mentioned that it's basically ready. So who knows, maybe now we're in the stage where we can actually have enough semiconductors to create such camera at a reasonably affordable price. So you never know. But then, according to Nikon Rumour, we're also going to see another camera this year. And I would assume we're going to see another camera this year, because if Z30 is announced and then we have nothing for the next 6 months, that would be ridiculous. But
well, it would also be a very bizarre trend, because we normally see 2 cameras a year at least, and to only have one and for it to be an entry-level body would be strangely disappointing. So
okay, well, let's speculate on that. What the second camera that Nikon will announce this year? So what do you have? I mean, I bet on Z8 personally. What do you think, Becky?
I think the Z6 II and Z7 II are actually coming up to their 2nd year anniversary and will need Mark III iterations. But as we've discussed before, what those Mark III iterations are, or what Nikon decide to do with the Z7 line and the Z6 line, that's all yet to be determined. I would personally quite like a Z6 III. I'd upgrade my Z6 then. If it was considerably better, and I mean considerably better in terms of autofocus technology and a slightly higher resolution sensor, then I would upgrade my Z6 to a Z6 III.
Do you think it's going to be this year though? Because there is a situation where we talk about the expensive technology trickling down to cheaper cameras, but then there is a Z8, which we actually haven't seen any rumors about. So that camera may not exist. It's just we hoping that it's going to be released, and we all have our assumptions based on our experience and just previous, Nikon lineup in terms of, let's say, DSLRs. So, but for me, if Z8 is in the pipeline, it doesn't make sense to release Z6 III with Z9 technology. It may come out first, but then it may not have Z9 technology, so it will be using the old technology, and then Z8 comes out with new technology. Then we're going to have people complaining and saying, Z6 III comes out without Z9 technology. Now I have to wait for another 2 years for Z6 Mark IV.
Okay, so here's my theory. This is entirely my theory, but this is what I think is going to happen. So come September, we're going to see a Z6 III and a Z7 III. I don't think we're going to see a Z8. I'm sorry, I don't think we're going to see a Z8. Okay. I think that we're going to see those 2 cameras take some of the autofocus technology from the Z9, some of the other bits and pieces. I think that we're going to see other technology that doesn't come from the Z9, which will be slightly unexpected, but will still improve. It's not going to have a full-blown Z9 autofocus system, let's put it that way.
Okay.
But a slightly, for want of a better word, slightly gimped autofocus system, which is still outperforming the Z6 II and Z7 II autofocus system, because they're for different purposes.
Do you think it's going to have alien technology there?
I think it's going to have AI. I think it's going to have a built-in Alexa. And
well, when I say AI, I always thought this as AL, as for aliens, you see. So I see what you mean. And then the problem with that is going to be expectations.
Yeah, I'm not saying that that's the perfect solution. I'm just saying that so many people have talked about this Z8. No one from Nikon anywhere have I ever heard say, you know what, that's a really great idea. Every single Nikon staff member, from the training staff to the channel staff to the allocation staff, they don't confirm or deny the existence of it, but actually they very, very definitively say the Z8 is a BMW. It's not a camera.
It's not a Hyundai.
So I think to myself, like, as much as the Z8 is wanted and needed, and I know that you want this camera to exist, and it seems to be this thing on the internet where like, oh, I really want a Z8, that's what I'm waiting for. I don't think it's going to happen.
I just want you to let me live in my own bubble and dream things, because I really hope that they just keeping it so close to the chest and under the blanket that they just don't share it.
Sure.
Remember Z9?
Yeah.
Remember the worst kept secret where you say, where's Z9? And they would laugh and they say, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But we say, but it's there. And they said, no.
Yeah.
Remember the photography show?
I do remember the photography show. Although at that point, we were very close to announcement.
That's
at
true.
that point. So
That's true. Well, let us dream. I think it makes sense. I think from, obviously with all these speculations,
yeah.
if you think about it, it makes sense for those things to happen.
Yeah.
So we're not really like just randomly creating those things. We trying to think, we look at the past releases.
Yes.
We look what the previous models in DSLR range did. And for us, it starts to make sense for Nikon to follow the suit. Obviously, they don't need to, and they may not do this. It's just our assumptions based on the previous releases more than anything else. But I can see what you're saying. I can tell you that it would hurt me, and I would be the one on the internet leaving angry comments under every Sony video.
Yeah.
Just because, why not? So
You're going to be personally offended if they don't bring out a Z8.
Yes, absolutely.
I think
attacked, I would say. Even,
you're going to be personally
else.
attacked. I'm going to call it, and I'm going to say the Z7 III is going to be the camera for you. And I'm willing to be unpopular. And I'm also willing to eat crow. If I am wrong, and if Nikon bring out a Z8 in September, then I will be perfectly happy with that as an outcome. I just think that we're going to see a Z6 III and a Z7 III before we see a Z8.
Okay, if we're not going to see Z8 this year, I'm going to make a video where I switch to Fuji GFX 100S.
Okay, good.
Here you heard it first.
I like that we have differences in opinion. It's important.
Exactly.
Adds an extra dimensionality to the podcast.
Exactly.
Moving on from speculations of new releases to the discontinuation of old products. Apparently, the Nikon D3000 and 5000 series product lines are now officially discontinued.
So apparently Nikon sent some notices to stores saying that, get ready, D3000 series and D5000 series are going to be gone soon. Do we have any updates on this, Becky?
So I can tell you for a certainty that we have received the last D5000s that we are going to receive.
Okay.
So we do have them in stock. Not body only. Those have actually been discontinued or end of line for a while. D3000 series we haven't had for a considerable amount of time. So there was no surprise really on that one. We were expecting that one to be discontinued a little bit earlier, actually.
Okay. So suddenly Z30 rumors make more sense then?
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's important to release a camera if you discontinue some other cameras.
Yeah. And then they've got this little window where people will be looking for an entry-level camera, and unfortunately, either Nikon need to move fast enough that they supply a camera to fill that gap. Otherwise, people are going to go somewhere else.
Well, look, it's summer outside as well. I think we need Z30 right now on the shelves. So we don't need the announcement and say, come back in a month.
Yeah.
Because people are traveling now. People go places.
I concur.
So in terms of this, yes, let's make it happen. Otherwise, get a stock of DSLR.
Next up, Nikon have officially released their rather memorably named MCCF660G memory card. This is actually a CFExpress Type B memory card with a large capacity of 660 gig, which is impressive. It realizes a high-speed read rate of approximately 1,700 megabytes per second at the maximum speed, and high-speed write rate of approximately 1,500 megabytes per second. They say it is the perfect memory card for recording video and stills with the Z9 full-frame camera, and especially ideal for recording video in 8K and for recording video over extended periods of time.
All right, so it joins forays of memory cards that just came out, so from Delkin, from ProGrade, and other manufacturers as well. So it's good to have options, and hopefully that will push the price wars between the brands as well. So maybe you will be able to pick up those memory cards a little bit cheaper. The next one up, surprise, the Nikon Z9 sensor is made by Sony.
So Tech Insights reports that the Z9 camera image sensor is made by Sony Semiconductor, which is a different company from Sony. They've said this report presents a device essentials folder, DEF, of the Sony IMX609AQJ full frame 45.7 megapixel stacked back illuminated CMOS image sensor from the Nikon Z9 mirrorless camera.
All right, so not a surprise, obviously the majority of Nikon cameras have Sony sensors. So some of them do not. They use Toshiba and other brands as well, so like Tower Semiconductors. And actually Z9 was rumored as a Tower Semiconductor
Yeah, that's
sensor.
what I thought.
We had a discussion, actually I thought this as well.
Yeah.
Remember when we had a discussion on this? But it's apparently Sony sensor. And to be honest with you, other brands also used Sony semiconductors. Companies like Canon, Fujifilm, Hasselblad, Leica, Olympus, Panasonic, Pentax, Phase One, Samsung, Sigma, and others.
Only.
So not just Nikon themselves. So what I think actually happens, obviously the sensor is not just available off the shelf and they just put it in all the cameras. So there's lots of things come in like processes and color science, etc. So I think that Sony had a reference design for the sensor which has been modified to specs and design supplied by Nikon.
Okay.
So Nikon gives them a contract saying we want this and this and this based on that sensor. So then Sony makes it for them. So that's what I think is going to happen. But also looking at the comments on Nikon Rumours website, so people say that Sony A1 is using IMX610 sensor and Z9 using this IMX609 sensor.
Yes, it's a different sensor.
Exactly. So 610 sensor from A1 is 50.1 megapixel sensor, and 609, which is Z9 is using, is actually 52 megapixel sensor. While the camera resolution is 45.7 megapixels,
Right.
there's a whole thing is called invisible megapixels.
Yes.
So that's what it is. And a lot of people assume that Nikon made this decision to lower the resolution to 45.7 megapixels just to increase the amount of data the camera can process. So who knows? But again, those are speculations at this point.
Well, I mean, one thing that I would say is that it wouldn't seem like a big deal if Sony Semiconductor was called something like, you know,
Becky Semiconductors.
Bob's Semiconductors.
Yeah.
But the fact that it has the name Sony in it, because obviously it's owned by the very large Sony corporation, makes everybody go, oh, must have the same sensor as a Sony camera. But actually it's a different company.
That's true. I mean, a part of sensationalism that those articles normally attract, you know, in their titles, oh, Sony is using cameras. That's been the case for many, many years.
Yeah.
The only thing I would complain about is actually Japanese government allowing Sony to buy Toshiba, who made sensors back in the day. So, you know, because I think that would create a monopoly. So it's a really kind of anti-monopoly case. Again, we're not lawyers, we have no idea. But if you want to ask to talk about legal things, then watch our previous reports where we discussed Red suing Nikon. It didn't go really well, but we tried.
We tried our best.
Now, I think business as usual, personally. What do you think, Becky?
Yeah, I don't think it changes anything really. It's an interesting tidbit to know, isn't it?
Exactly.
Hasn't stopped people buying Nikon cameras in the past.
Absolutely. Just have a look at the reviews of Sony A1 and Nikon Z9, and they're different cameras with different low light performance, with different autofocus performance, and also color science. Those things are different, while apparently the sensor was made by the same manufacturer.
Yeah. But it's not the same sensor, is it? So it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
It's a moot point.
Exactly.
Now for some new release information for you.
Nikon released something.
They did.
And it wasn't Z30.
It wasn't. They announced a new ProStaff P3 and ProStaff P7 binoculars.
Okay. So from what I understood, P3 is basically an entry-level binocular and P7 is kind of pro-grade.
Yes.
That's pretty much it, isn't it?
Now, interestingly enough, the sales of binoculars have been steadily increasing while sales of cameras and lenses and things have sort of slightly declined in recent years. During the start of COVID, actually binoculars and sports optics, as they call them, the sports optics area has been doing remarkably well. Partly, I think, because of people sitting in their homes wanting to do, for example, bird watching and things like that. I mean, certainly when we've gone recently to wildlife reserves and we've gone into bird hides, there have been plenty of people with binoculars sort of, you know, they take the time. Perhaps not full-fledged ornithologists, but close enough. And they are looking for the particular breed of bird that they want to spot.
Yeah, I'm going to sound very ignorant because I don't understand the whole binocular thing. I would rather buy a camera in the lens and get the same magnification. But I understand it's got a place. It's just I'm not there yet.
I think the funny thing is that for some things, it's nicer just to watch and be in the moment than to try and get the photo, if you know what I mean. I think that there is actually... There's two separate hobbies.
It's like you're going to the concert and you just don't take out your mobile phone and record the whole show. You actually enjoy it, just like a moment of being there and just kind of soaking up all the vibes, all the good things.
Exactly. There have been instances, for example, in recent times, followers on Instagram will know, where I haven't taken my camera with me somewhere and I've gone, damn, I really regretted not taking my camera with me. But then I've been able to just enjoy the experience a little bit more because I'm not thinking about, oh, there's a shot that I want to take. I'm like, okay, I have to live with the fact that I didn't bring my camera and now I get to just Live in the moment. Live, laugh, love.
All right, Becky, I have a solution for you for this. You get a medium format camera. In your case, you ask your husband to carry it for you because Pentax 6.7 is a beast and it's very heavy. But
He's not doing that.
if he cares it for you, then you limit it to 10 shots on your trip. So then you don't think about shots that much. But then when you see something that is special, then you take the camera and you press the shutter button.
What I need is a pocketable sized medium format camera. Honestly, it takes so long to set up that shot once you find it that it negates any and everything that you've just said. But I do understand the benefit of binoculars and why people have been enjoying them recently a little bit more. And I think that it's great that sales of sports optics have increased. In fact, we do stock a select line of Nikon binoculars, and we will stock the P3s and P7s when they are officially available. They're available for pre-order now.
Absolutely. And then obviously do let us know in the comments below what is the use for binoculars is, so I can learn and change my mind.
I'll take you one day. We'll just go with no cameras and just binoculars, and then you'll see what I'm talking about.
Fair enough, Becky. Fair enough. Okay, the last Nikon bit of news that we have for this week is Nikon opened a beautiful new store in Guangzhou Grandview Plaza in China. A beautiful place. It's an official Nikon store with lots of cameras and lenses on display as well as Nikon merch. Looks fantastic in my opinion. I have a question for you, Becky. So Nikon is opening their own store. So think of Apple store, but with a Nikon logo on it. Mm-hmm. Do you think they will follow the suit and open those stores in other countries? And that's part number one. The part number two, how does it affect the Nikon only retailers, which are many of them? And obviously, Grace of Westminster is the only one of many of one.
With the only one in the UK, for sure.
But with the increase of Nikon web store in the UK, Europe, and United States, how does it affect dealers?
This is a great question. It is an interesting strategy from Nikon because they have been quite open in saying that they're planning to focus on their own store as much as possible, and that they are going to try and increase the volume of sales from their online store in a sort of early days emulation of the Apple/Apple Store kind of ethos. But how that's going to affect retailers, and not just us, but retailers in general in the long term, it's far too early to say yet. I mean, Nikon Store has actually been in existence for about 6 years, 7 years, something like that. And it's only really in the last year or so that we've started hearing people say, oh, I ordered my item from the Nikon Store directly, at least over here in the UK. I'm sure in the US it was a more popular thing, but it took them a while to get off the ground and really put themselves as a name where people would automatically go to buy their stuff from.
Well, my real question was should I update my CV and look for some waiter job or something? I mean, that's what I'm asking, in
Far
2-3
too talented to be a waiter.
Because I'm a YouTube personality.
They produced this beautiful store, I will say. The store aesthetically is absolutely gorgeous. Yes. I love the clean lines. I love what they've done with the idea behind it. Obviously, this one is in China. It would be a far more aggressive move if they opened one up in the US and if they opened one up in Europe. But, but because they are starting in China, at the moment, I'm not overly concerned.
Okay. Well, I have another example for you from another brand who has opened their store in Covent Garden, and it's a Fujifilm store.
Yeah, a bit like the Leica store.
So which is official Fujifilm store, which is actually run by another company. It's not run by Fuji themselves.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it?
But it's not run by any photographic dealer, just so you know. So did it affect wax photographic or part cameras of the world? I don't think it did.
No, because I think that having that sort of bricks and mortar store with the brand name on it, owned by the brand, or at least to a certain degree, completely in line with the brand, is more a place for people to visit as a point of interest. They don't necessarily go there to buy their equipment, at least right now. That's going to change. I mean, if Nikon and Fuji had kind of copied what Leica do, it's actually very difficult to go into a store and buy a Leica camera unless you go to the Leica store. There are other stores that sell Leica equipment, but none of them have the full range or the kind of level of expertise as the Leica store itself. And the Leica store also stock other brand Leica compatible equipment.
But here's the thing though, is it more of a marketing and branding exercise than a retail sales exercise? Or is it something else? Obviously, Leica has a different model from Fujifilm store. Now, I see as Fujifilm store as being a more of a branding thing. So you have that retail store so people can come in and have a look. And obviously Fujifilm is not just doing the digital cameras, so they also sell film, they also do a lot of printing products, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So, and obviously they're Instax cameras as well. So Leica though is aimed more for Leica users, and obviously the knowledge comes with that equipment.
And a completely different price point, so quite difficult to compare those two. But what I will say is that the Fuji store kind of emulates a similar model to the Nikon store that's just opened up in China, in that it's all very showy, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that people come to look, but they don't necessarily come to buy. The Nikon store in China does not look like the place that you would walk in to go and buy your equipment. It looks a little bit like a museum.
It's a boutique, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. So I love the concept behind it. This is like, it's almost like Gray had the first idea, the original idea, having a museum/store, and they've gone, yeah, let's do that.
So I want a piece of that.
Because it works so well, having somewhere that people can come and they can look at fascinating limited edition, versions of cameras that they've known and loved for years, but also to have the retail experience where they can pick up and try things and then also just buy the thing that they want then and there. That was the Gray's original model,
I think it's interesting though.
It is interesting. It makes me think. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
As a retailer, it makes me think. But I do like the look of the place. I think what they've chosen to do with the decor is a really nice choice. And let's see where it goes from here.
All right, let's move on to some third-party news. So first one up is actually related to Nikon lenses. So one of them is Nikkor Z Micro 105 lens. Some people complain that this lens doesn't have a tripod collar. And I guess it makes sense. What do you think, Becky? You have 105. Would you want to have a tripod collar on 105 lens?
No, personally, I don't think that it's overweighted even on a Z6. I think that it's quite safe to mount a tripod onto the body. So I don't really see the point in having a tripod collar on the lens, but some people prefer it that way, and that's fair enough.
Well, apparently, according to Nikon Rumours, the Canon offers a tripod, some sort of support for their 100 RF lens.
Right.
So that, but also one of the readers of Nikon Rumours emailed to Nikon Rumours and said they've looked into the possibility, they got in touch with a manufacturer of certain camera accessories. His name is Rainer Brzezinski. And with their collaboration, they created certain support that allows you to mount this lens collar on the camera as well as on the tripod and rotate the camera 90 degrees for vertical and landscape shot.
Wow.
So this particular accessory is available from Rainer Brzezinski website. So you go there and you email him basically. It costs 180 euros plus shipping. So if you're interested in that and if you definitely need the support for your 105 lens, then I think it's the only option on the market at the moment.
Indeed. Next up, Leica released a new 12mm f2 wide-angle manual focus APS-C lens for the Nikon Z mount, which replaces the previous version. It was an f2 lens to f16 and is a 12mm fixed wide angle.
It's priced only at $189, which is really good. But speaking of wide angle lenses, the Viltrox autofocus 13mm lens, which is 20mm on DX, has reached its funding goal on Indiegogo. It still will be running until 29th of June, so you can pre-order yours. I think it's about £290 in UK, so you can get that. Obviously, this one is a bit more expensive, but it is autofocus, and it's also manufactured by Viltrox, which is now people start to get to know it a bit more because it's already, I think, third or fourth lens, autofocus lens that are released for Nikon Z mount.
Is it full frame as well?
It is DX, unfortunately.
Oh, I see.
So, but again, the need is there. We need a 20mm on DX. So because there's none from Nikon, we obviously have a 20mm 1.8 for full frame use. And obviously a lot of people use that particular lens for astrophotography.
Yes.
But the goal has been reached. If you want to buy it as soon as, you can go to Indiegogo and pre-order one. But we also had some reviews of the lens. We have Christopher Frost, who tested on Sony e-camera. But it will perform the same way on Nikon Z. So if you want to learn about this lens a bit more, then definitely do check out his review.
In software news, the new Photo RAW version 2022.5 is now available with support for the Z9 cameras.
Yeah, so it's an on-one company, so if you do use that, then you can upgrade to that version. Let's move on to reviews. We have lots of 800mm reviews, so we reviewed one ourselves and we really enjoyed it. Now, PhotoZine reviewed the lens as well. What did they say, Becky?
So they said whether shooting long-range sports, birds, or animals, then the extra reach of an 800mm can make all the difference. It is still important to be in the right place, as on its own, no lens can be long enough. But being able to fill the frame with small birds from a reasonable distance is amazing. It comes at a cost, of course, but those who are dedicated to long-range shooting will find here a great lens at a very reasonable price relative to the hugely more expensive larger aperture options. The Synchro VR is incredibly efficient, and this makes handheld shooting a viable option as well. We can attest to that on the Z9. It makes a huge difference over shooting on the Z6. They've said overall another fine Z series offering from Nikon and one that can be highly recommended. The only cons, they had plenty of pros. The only cons were that it's a large lens, so it needs practice to handle. Potential PF flare.
Yeah, I don't like potential.
Just means they didn't find any.
Exactly. So we think it's there, but we haven't tested for it. So I don't like that when the websites do that.
Yeah.
Because then we can say the Z8 is great camera, but potentially maybe a little bit heavy. Like, you know.
Yeah, but you don't know.
Hypothetically.
Yeah, it's a hypothetical con, really.
Yeah.
And then they've said the price is inevitably high, although for an 800mm, as they pointed out, it's actually quite reasonable compared to the F-mount equivalent.
Okay. Let's go through pricing a little bit. So the price of Z800mm 6.3 is currently $6,299 in the UK. That's including VAT. So the tax is included in the UK, not in the United States. The reason why I say this is because we will have tons of comments doing this. Now, the full frame F-mount version, which is 5.6 from Nikon, costs $18,999. So it's 19K effectively. So this is from Nikon. From Canon, we have two options. 800 f11, which is not 6.3, so it's f11, which is quite a bit of difference in terms of stops. So it's priced at £1,100, and then we have 805.6 RF offering, which priced at £19,099. So if you look at 6.3 in terms of pricing, it's actually not too bad, but obviously not just comparing those prices. 6.3 is a lot of money for a lot of people, I agree.
Yes. Now, we also had a review from the Digital Camera World website. They've said similar things. They said this lens gives you telephoto superpowers in a relatively lightweight package. The downsized build comes courtesy of a modest 6.3 aperture rating and phase Fresnel optical element, a technology that's commonly used to focus the beam in a lighthouse. So we always talk about this lighthouse thing that always comes up, which is very funny. They have also complemented the VR, and also it said, less than half the price of the new 400mm 2.8 TCVRS. The pros are super fast autofocus, pro-grade build and handling, and excellent image quality. The cons were they didn't like the 6.3, modest 6.3 aperture, the necessarily big build. They said it's necessary, but they didn't like it. And pricey, but great value.
Okay, fair enough. Well, speaking of 800mm, we also had a report from Yodobashi, who publishes their selling ratings of their camera. So it's still the best-selling lens for the month of May, which is very interesting.
Next up, we have a Nikon Z7 II review. It's actually astrophotography and nightscape focused, and it's by Will Cheney. That's on his YouTube channel. So do go and check that out if you're interested in how the Z7 II performs for astro work.
Let's move on to Weekend Read and Watch. The first one up, we have how pro photographers help make the Z9 from prototype to flagship by Petapixel.
So Agence France Presse has been working closely with Nikon on the development of the Z9. AFP says that it plans to outfit all of its staff photographers with the Z9 going forward alongside other mirrorless cameras. The agency has a network of over 450 photographers, including 190 permanent shooters that report from 151 countries, and the majority of them choose to shoot with Nikon.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because a lot of big manufacturers, they normally get a contract with the press agencies.
Yes.
So that's thing number one. So the agency places big orders for those cameras. Now, actual photographers who shoot for that press agencies have their own preferences. And what they say is actually AFP photographers, they use Nikon as their kind of household brand.
Which is nice. It's lovely to know.
For more information how the agency worked with Nikon to create Z9, do check out this article by Petapixel.
Next up, we have Birds of Ecuador, the Z9 video by Christy Odom with the Z400 2.8 TCVRS, and that's by Nikon USA, so that's over on their YouTube channel.
And there's also behind the scenes video how they created it. So the first one is just beautiful videography. The second one, she actually talks how she used the lens, how she got there, etc., etc. So it's part one and part two. Definitely check it out.
Next up, we have Red v Nikon. I'll tell you what this means by friend of the shop, Chris Stublu. Chris has done a YouTube video, probably slightly better explaining the whole thing than we did.
He knows his stuff. And he's back on YouTube.
Yay.
So do subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. His videos are fire. And on that note, we conclude our session of Nikon Report for this week. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for watching and or listening. Please give us a like and a subscribe if you're on YouTube. Please give us a follow, a review, a rating, all the rest of it if you're listening on a podcast platform.
Yeah, if you like the show as well, there's a super thanks as well. So you can support the show this way as well. But we are on places like Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify of the world. So if you want to listen to this hi-fi version, 320 kilobits, we are there, and you can drive and listen and not watch. So that's that. We're also on the socials all over the world, and Becky is?
I'm at Rebecca_Danese on Instagram.
The shop is at Nikon at Grace, and I am at Konstantin Kochkin. We do publish pictures from the lenses that we review. We also shoot lots of films. So if you want to check out what we do and what we're up to date to, do subscribe to our Instagram accounts as well.
Yes. Now we will be taking a short hiatus because Con's leaving me to go on holiday.
It was nice knowing you all.
But we will be back the week after with much more Nikon news. In the meantime, I will be here uploading videos and hopefully live streaming. So
The OG Becky.
That's right. So do join me if you can.
And we will see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye.